Good evening, everyone. Can I please have a motion and a second to reconvene the public meeting?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Can I please have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor our servicemen and women? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the August 29, 2023 meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Can I please have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the September 5, 2023 meeting?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. The superintendent presents the following regulations and exhibits for the Board of Education's edification. 4327E.7, Alternative Learning Center Parent Guidelines Letter Revision reflects new ALC hours. We now have our superintendent's update, Dr. Centimore.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Let me first start by kind of speaking to that recent communication that we put out today regarding the swatting incident at one of our local temples right across from OBMS. The reason the communication was put out because we had a media presence right on that road, and we wanted to make sure that the community understood that everything was fine at the middle school. But I also want to take this as an opportunity to do two things. One, to express our support for our Jewish community, especially during these high holy days, and these swatting incidents are very unfortunate. Clearly they've been targeting a lot of Jewish temples during this holiday time across Long Island, and we certainly stand in solidarity. And it's also important that parents understand the significance, how dangerous and unlawful these types of things are in terms of swatting. I did reference it in my back to school letter, but these are important conversations to have with our youth. This is not just a prank. This is something very serious. Making these false threats to any organization, especially when you're targeting a group of people, is something that is very serious. And as the adults, we have to make sure that we help to, drive that message home to our youth so we can help them make, better decisions. And obviously, I want to wish a Shana Tova and Jamar Chatma Tova to our Jewish community. I am very happy to report that it has been a strong opening of school. Our students arrived with such wonderful enthusiasm, and our staff, all of our staff, certainly brought high spirit as well. The back-to-school nights have all been very well attended. I'd like to thank the parents for all their support, the staff for being so welcoming, and we've had lots of our groups such as PTA, SEPTA, ORBA, Scouts, Public Library, as well as student representatives. I'd like to thank them for being so active at these events and so visible. And this will continue into next week with our high school and into this week rather with our high school and Cherokee. We've also had a plethora of events and activities going on, certainly at the high school level, but now also at the middle school. Several of our athletic teams are off to great starts. We saw an exciting girls soccer game last night, a big win over a tough team. I just came today from the Battle of Connecticut. We had two middle school girls soccer teams competing against one another. I tried to stand in the middle, of the sideline between the two teams, between the red and the white jersey, so that was exciting. So we have a lot of great stuff going on at all levels, and obviously this month is, ISO Goes Purple, and we've had a lot of good spirit and recognition around the, awareness and recovery. And some of the other neat activities such as senior sunrise and senior breakfast. I tell you, it's very cool when you go into a cafeteria with 17 and 18-year-olds and it's 8:39 in the morning and the music is playing, and all of a sudden it's time to play musical chairs, and to see seniors engage in an activity on an early Sunday morning was very neat to see, and it just speaks to the spirit of Connecticut. And obviously, we're heading next week into our Spirit Week, and Connecticut Thunderbird Pride will certainly be on full display as we head towards our homecoming on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we have our Board of Ed topics. I actually wanted to talk about the food service and Aramark, if that's okay. So we all had a chance to go to the cafeterias today at the different levels. Well, not today. Some of us went last Friday, some of us went today. And taste the food, for me personally, I thought the food at the high school was not that bad. It was actually edible. At the middle school and the elementary school, a little different story, but the kids liked it, so that's good. But I do have some concerns that were shared with me. I know if you want to go to the podium and help us answer our questions. Sure.
Okay, so my name is Grace Mashinsky. I'm the district manager with Aramark. I cover Long Island territory.
So one of the concerns some of the elementary staff members had was that they do have some gluten-free children, and there's no visual on the menu. So there are gluten-free options, but the visual isn't there for some of their children, and they need that visual. So if that's something that we could rectify for them.
Yes, ma'am. We actually were literally working on that today. So there is not a language in the contract that requires gluten-free, so admittedly we were not prepared with that right off the jump. But what we did do is hear that feedback and listen to what we actually have in gluten-free options in the Aramark menus is more expansive than what was previously offered. There are a number of different options daily instead of just the one or two that were previously offered. So we're figuring out a way to make sure that that's visually transparent in the menus that are communicated. So
Or
we've
just
actually,
any other allergens that could, nuts or dairy or.
Sure.
whatever
So
allergen.
we will be deploying our school dish platform, which is an Aramark software that is a web-based program that allows parents, nurses, teachers, anyone in the public to have access to interactive menus that you can actually build your plate, so to speak. And it will spit out for you nutritional fact labels that look very familiar to what parents and customers would be seeing in a retail environment. So when you look at the back of that label on a product and you see the nutritional fact breakdown, the ingredient statement breakdown, and it goes so far as to give you the option that if your child has an allergy, you can select those allergies and it will actually strike out the items on the menu that contain those allergies that the child wouldn't have. So you can make conscious decisions as an adult, as a child as well, right? The older grades can do this themselves, and the nurses and even the district food service workers will have access to that platform.
That's great, thank you. Another thing that came to my attention anyway was that in the year prior, as they used to be Gatorade, Izzy's, and Envy's, they were 12-ounce drinks for $1.60, which are now being served for $1.75. And they are going to be switching to Switch drinks, which I actually had to look it up to see what a Switch drink was. But they're 7.5 ounces being sold for the same $1.60 price.
Okay, so the contract specifically lays out the a la carte items and the prices that are agreed upon by the district. What it didn't specify is the sizes. The Switch product is designed for the K through 12 child nutrition program. It's acceptable across all grade levels, where the Izzy product is not. And we do not typically see it offered in child nutrition programs in the 12-ounce size because it is not appropriate for use in most grade levels. So Aramark uses a Switch product for the benefit of the room and everybody. Izzy is a sparkling juice product, right? So is Switch. It's exactly the same 100% sparkling fruit juice product. That product, however, is designed to be appropriate to be served following Smart Snack guidelines for our K through 12 environment. So that is what we typically see in child nutrition programs. there is nothing to say that we couldn't also offer Izzy at its larger size. It just isn't specified. So you'll hear me maybe say more than once that there are things that are not laid out specifically in the contract. That does not mean that we're not able to provide it. It's just a conversation, and we need to make sure that it's appropriate for what the district decides in terms of the financials.
I think part of the concern was the size difference for the same price. So you went from 12 ounces to 7.5 at the same price, so that.
I understand that completely, yeah. The size is not specified, so we can absolutely address that.
All right, and as far as cutlery and paper goods, the plates in the high school are super thin. Like the food is, like the plates were like folding over when the kids were trying to carry them. There's not a lot of utensils. They run out typically, and there are no sponges to properly clean the trays in the middle schools, is what I've heard.
Sponges.
To clean the trays down, I guess.
Trays. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to be more specific.
That's-
Okay, so what I will say is that in terms of paper products, the high school was offered multiple different options in terms of what they wanted to serve the food in, and ultimately they said that the children prefer to eat off of paper plates rather than like the trays that we serve in the other grade levels. So that was a decision that was made by the cook manager at the high school, but we are able to look at different options in terms of plates. That was the only plate that was available to us at the time, and when they made the decision to go towards
Just how flimsy they are, and if you
yeah, so we can
Carrying
improve
it-
upon that.
yeah.
That's an easy fix.
And I guess the last thing I had was the size of the chicken patty. Right?
And so what I want to go back to the cutlery
did?
too,
Yeah.
right? So I want to make sure everybody is aware that we have purchased in an abundance of anything that anyone would need, and we're housing backups to whatever they might need if they were to run out of product at some of the smaller schools that don't receive Cisco deliveries on their own right now. We have drivers that are district employees that move product around. So we're warehousing an abundance of supplies at the high school. There's no reason for anybody to be running out of anything or be in short supply. And if there is anything that they need, they simply need to communicate to the food service director, Kristen Lella, who's here on site every day. And we will make sure that the drivers are equipped with whatever they need to go out to the schools. Chicken patties was an item that when it was first delivered from Cisco, it was not the correct size. So it was much smaller than the product that we would normally serve. That has since been remedied in the second delivery that we received, and we got the right product in-house.
Perfect. Do you guys want to
Yep.
add to it?
I saw it today. I went Friday with Marisol, me, and Brian. Me and Marisol went to Cherokee. We went to RMS, and we went to the high school. Brian went to the high school and RMS with us, and April came to the high school only. I went today with Jackie D. We went to the high school, we went to the middle school, OBMS, and then we went to Sycamore. And I have to tell you, every school that I went to, the food to me tasted better. Again, we have adult taste buds, it's a little different, but today I did take notes. I wanted to see packages, something that I hadn't done on Friday with the rest of the board members. I figured it might be useful. We also tried today the chicken sandwich that we had tried on Friday was very small, but I did witness them giving kids in the middle school a second one for free because it was supposed to be 3 ounces and the one you got was 1.5 ounces. So they gave them 2 to make up for that, if kids wanted that. Some kids didn't. I saw some kids didn't. What I took down was I was impressed. I don't even eat ham, but I did try it today, me. Actually, thank you, Mr. Hauser, for taking us 2 days. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dr. Centimore, for coming along. We had Black Forest Smithfield ham. It was, I don't even eat ham, and it tasted fine. The Carolina turkey is the new cold cut through you guys. Whitson's gave us Butterball last year. I found that the Carolina turkey was much better. The chicken patties are the same, I was told, and I looked at them, are the same chicken patty we had for 11 years, except, coincidentally, the last 2 months last year, when all of a sudden we were getting extras of everything because, you know. But that was last year, and that last year's was whole muscle meat. This year is the chicken patties we had for 11 years. And instead of getting spicy chicken, they're because the spicy chickens used to bleed through when they were cooked, which made kids scared of it being pink. You guys now are doing an incredible job, especially the lunch ladies that are so understaffed, doing so much. They showed me that they were now hot sauce, putting it on, you know, they're chopping their own lettuce now. A lot more fresh stuff, which we didn't have before. They explained to me, we had some complaints about there not going to be beef taco that we had. Today, we tried the chicken taco and it was excellent. The chicken meat was actually very
It's
good.
Tyson chicken.
Yeah, it was very good. But I was told, and thank you, Kristen, she said that the beef did not come from the government yet. It was on order, but so it was unavailable. Now we got 50 cases coming in October.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will have fresh taco meat and we can have fresh hamburgers or meatballs.
And we did
Which I thought
start
was
the
excellent.
year with actually that beef commodity taco meat, but there was an equipment failure at the high school, and so they lost tons and tons of product from the freezer that we had anticipated starting the year with. So that
And
caused a bit of a hiccup.
I don't want people to think I just walk around and eat everything in sight. I wasn't doing that. I was going with Jackie going, let's cut a hot dog into little pieces.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the
Sample.
hot dog was very good. It's a beef hot dog. I went into the freezer at the high school and I looked at the fresh vegetables that looked excellent. I mean, I do know we used to have them chopped. I know that was helpful, especially being understaffed. The popcorn chicken is the same in Tyson bag that we have always gotten.
Yes, ma'am.
So the popcorn chicken is exactly the same. And the chicken that they showed me was all Tyson. So, I mean, for me, I understand this isn't McDonald's. I'm not going to say, you know, there's only so much. I am impressed, though, especially I saw at the elementary schools, too, how much they're doing to the food to try to make it more appetizing. Now, we sat today with second graders. I was in a state of shock that they were eating cut up peppers and they were eating, I was watching them like, hey, you want mine? Because I don't eat peppers. Maybe I should, but I mean, I was really impressed. It's nice to see that the choices that you guys have chosen, little cups of peaches.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that the kid. I was happy to see the change. That's, you know, are there going to be some? I understand there's going to be some issues in the beginning. You guys are new here. I get that. You were here years ago, but I appreciate that you guys are trying. I appreciate that you had your manager. She was running around with me. Thank you very much, and giving me all the information I wanted. Like I said, both times we tried everything. I was impressed. You could ask Mr. Hauser. We were eating everything there. Every sandwich.
It was a long day.
I will make you laugh. We did throw one in our bag each, and we said we're bringing it in case anybody wants to see.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we put a lot of time into lunch, and I know that there are other issues that we need to deal with, other stuff, I say real work, but it's important that kids eat. So seeing on Friday that we went, me and Marisol looked at the garbages and at the high school, and they were empty. They were empty. The dishes were empty. I went up to kids, I asked them, how's the food? And everybody, and I have to be honest, I got to give you a little criticism, though. They was like, the food's great, except the mac and cheese sauce is terrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, I heard it's Land O'Lakes. I mean,
Yeah, it
so
is.
I don't know if you guys can play around with that a little bit, because normally mac and cheese was something the kids loved.
Yeah.
But otherwise, today we've heard nothing but good.
I'm so
Nothing
happy to
but
hear
good.
that. And we're okay to hear the bad too, right? So what I think is important that everyone understands is the constraints that we are to follow, right? So we have regulatory environment, everybody knows that. There are sodium restrictions and saturated fat and all of those caloric restrictions. We know all of that. In addition to that, we have contractual responsibilities, right? And I addressed the board when to this district to say that specified in our contract with the district, that is not a barrier, right? We can work through those challenges piece by piece as needed. If you want something different or something more and there's cost impact, it's an district. It is our job to provide to you the service and the level of service that you expect. some of the challenges that we may have had along the way. Firstly, everyone should know that we are operating on bid menus, right? So we have menus that were not designed by Aramark that we are to follow for the first month of the school year. So some of the improvements that you've seen have come with bringing in products that align with Aramark's catalog that may be better, different. We've also allowed the staff the autonomy to do more in terms of fresh fruits and vegetables. This is a bit new, right? Getting to bring in real whole heads of lettuce and chop them yourself and slice fresh peppers and do a lot more and give them the autonomy to say, we can do more than this, but we're trying to be mindful of the staffing levels. We do understand that the district is about 25 positions down in food service right now, I believe is where we're at, something around there.
So,
So, what was
can I just
31?
address that for a
31?
quick second? I do want to throw props your way, Ms. Iannatelli. Thank you very much. I've been inundated with emails. No, don't be sorry. I appreciate that greatly because we've gotten many, many emails of individuals who are interested in coming to work for Connect-Quad and being in the food service department. I have forwarded those over
Yes.
to Kristen
We
and
have 8 interviews lined up for this week, so we're
Sweet.
really
Can I
For
ask
excited.
anybody
something?
that
That's
doesn't
awesome. So
know,
thank you very
after
much.
our visit on Friday, Ms. Iannatelli posted all over social media that we were looking for help, and if anybody wanted to contact Mr. Kohler-Hefler, so apparently.
It was a
we will
huge
have people
influx
cutting
of
lettuce
interest.
and
Can I
broccoli
ask though,
soon.
why didn't we do that before? Why would we, if we're down bus drivers, we're down lunch ladies, we're starting off, and I appreciate it being posted by all means, but do we have staff for that? Why would this not be more, I mean, don't
We-
get me
we
wrong.
have posted.
But you posted on, you guys posted on these signs out here, these signs that I don't know that anyone even looks at them. But what about, like, I'm just saying, we have a district website, are we not posting it? Because I haven't seen it.
we posted everywhere. Short of me standing on Sunrise Highway on a sandwich board, we've done everything we can. Again, I want to just throw props Ms. Iannatelli's way because, her influence was able to get people in. Listen, I don't know their history. I don't know anything about them. They'll be interviewed and we want to thank
But we
you.
should
So if
have
you
her
know any
also
bus
post
drivers.
about the bus, because we need bus drivers, we need aides, we need mechanics. There are certain, am I wrong? Aren't these jobs we need? Like,
You're not,
we should be.
No, you're not
posting about
incorrect.
that.
We also
So
do that.
the district will take a more aggressive look at utilizing social media. We have expanded that with Syntax, with our communications, and in terms of recruitment, it's a good avenue to pursue.
And one of the things that we can bring as a resource to the district are a lot of the best practices. And so we have awesome best practices that we can share with the district about what has worked in other places in a difficult hiring environment to get some attention to those roles.
Thank you.
I
Does
think
any-
we also have to, I think personally, we all gonna have to get serious about looking over, I know we already did contract negotiations, but if we wanna get people in, we're gonna have to come up with some more creativity.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything about the food service? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Transparency. Jackie Knapp.
So, I have a couple of questions for the superintendent. So people have been questioning about different things. I think it's important for us to give the community transparency on them. One, school grounds. Who exactly gives permission to be on school grounds? So if we have middle schools, we have high school, who gives permission to be on these grounds normally?
Yeah, in the normal circumstances, it'll be central administration, building administration.
Okay, so central administration or building administration? It's not select board members, correct? Can any one board member do anything without being in a quorum of 3? Lisa, that might actually be for you. One board member can't approve something without 3, am I right? With
So
being in a
yes,
quorum.
any directive given from the board has to be done via resolution. So that means
Thank you.
with a 5-member board, it has to be 3 board members who approve anything that's done on behalf of the Board of Education.
Thank you. Number 2, I was looking into, we have received emails. So, or an email or emails, over the years of it being anonymous. Now we've come across something unique. Third-party emails, where someone is anonymous, but someone else is sending it instead, saying, this is from so-and-so, that doesn't wanna, this is from an anonymous person that doesn't wanna speak, but I'm not anonymous, so treat the email like it's not anonymous. But what they don't understand is it's still an anonymous email that we can't give credence to because of the fact that someone's not willing to take ownership of it.
Okay. No, I mean, I don't know if there's a question, so.
Well, I'm saying, I don't think people understand that. I think there's a misconception. It's kind of like if I went home today and said to a friend of mine, hey, you be the go-to person. So everyone who doesn't wants to send the board or super an email, but doesn't want to be known who they really are, should send it to this point person. Then that point person will send it to the school board and the super, and they'll do whatever they got to do. They'll take action. When in the past, we've never taken action on an anonymous email because we don't know where it came from. Even if a person puts in there that
It's
it's,
from me on behalf of this anonymous
Yeah,
person. I got it now. So, and that's all school district dependent. Some school districts, to the extent something is anonymous and major and they want to try to see if they can see if there's any truth to it, may attempt to do an investigation, but it's very hard because you really don't have the person to talk to kind of give information, but it really depends on what the allegation is. I do understand that historically in Connecticut, anonymous emails have really gotten no credence because it's very hard to follow up.
right, there's no
So
complaint.
Right, so something like that would follow the same protocol, I would imagine, because who are you going to question with regard to the allegation?
Absolutely. I think that some people were under the assumption that they could be the person that gets questioned as a third party.
They could, but
Which-
they would have to have the information.
Right.
To,
And then they'd also
the
have to,
superintendent to
some of,
conduct an
some of these emails that are coming in are FERPA violations. Speaking about students, speaking about people's pasts that are from when they were a child. It's unbelievable how they're getting this kind of information. I mean, I'm just beside myself in the fact that there's a level of transparency and then there has to be a level of confidentiality. And I really don't know where the leaks are, but there's certainly leaks.
But going on that third-party email, if you don't give credence to the email, you don't give credence to any part of that email. You can't just pick and choose what part of the email you.
it's all fact dependent, so I wouldn't, I'd have to see the email, and it would be up to the superintendent and his cabinet to determine whether there is any possibility of looking into whatever the allegation is. So it's really, I think everything is really fact dependent.
Well, I guess if somebody is going through old records and trying to pull up records on when we were all kids, I would think that that's pretty easy to try to find out if it's things that can only be accessed by certain individuals in our district.
Once again, I can only, if I had, I
Lisa?
really need to look
Yeah.
at whatever it is that's being
I'm
discussed.
not good at a lot, I tell people, I'm not good at a lot of things, but investigations, you'd be surprised, I'll tell you.
And the superintendent and his cabinet would have to make that independent determination as to whether something that's brought to their attention is worth an investigation, if it's anonymous or not, in order to, it really depends on what the allegation is, the severity of it, and the ability of the superintendent and his cabinet to actually do an investigation if they don't have anything else but an anonymous complaint.
Yeah, like I said, I just wanted the community to understand so we don't get inundated with them. Because if we gave credence to one, we'd have to give credence to all. And then I would have to tell the entire community that, hey, find a point man or point woman, and that'll be the person that you send all the flood the emails. I mean, we need people to take ownership of what they, and really, we would want to do a full investigation. If you have an allegation that you feel is valid, you should put your name to it and send it to the school board or superintendent to do a full investigation. I'd be 100% on board with that. As long as what you're sending comes from a person and also there is some credence to it. Okay, No, third,
Legal.
legal credence.
Yeah.
Next, Dr. Centimore. So, another issue that I heard has arisen is when we have students that get in trouble, whether it be for whatever reasons, I think that there is a false narrative out in the community that they believe we have some information on that. Information more so of a student's name, a student's, like, the full information. I try to tell people when they, like, if they ask me a question and I give them no answer to it, I say, listen, we only get information about incidents. A lot of times it's just the grade. It's just whether it's a boy or girl. Sometimes we don't always even get that. And what the outline of the information is. We really don't get the full, and we also don't get what the discipline is and how long they're disciplined and all the other. I think that there is a false narrative that people think we get all this information on people's kids. We don't. And again, I'm not looking for you to give us that. I'm just trying to understand why they would think that about board members. I wanted to try to educate the community on understanding what kind of information we get. So if something happens tomorrow, right here, out around the block from Sycamore, what kind of email do we receive from you?
I'd like to first speak about false narratives, because it's almost like a teachable moment. And it's a cautionary tale to our entire community. And I don't think it's unique to Connecticut, but it's certainly prevalent. Is just be mindful of false narratives and relying upon accurate sources of information, especially directly from the school district. I opened up the superintendent's update talking about the swatting incident that I sent out a communication. So certain situations warrant the superintendent of the schools and/or a building principal. Sometimes we could do it jointly to put out a communication to staff, parents, community-wide. Those type of situations would warrant some type of an update, which generally, if time permits, happens as the superintendent will reach out to a board president and then reach out to the board and then look to put a communication out there. Certain situations may not require a community communication, but in terms of promoting strong communication between a superintendent of schools and a board of education, superintendent, myself, to further that relationship and that partnership, might look at a situation and deem, you know what, there could be some false narratives put out there. I wouldn't want my board of education for a situation that could have some significance to catch them off guard. So I may look to give some kind of an update, but a very generic type summary where you generally not see names and get into specifics, especially if they're active situations in terms of the building, the district looking into a situation, if it's anything involving law enforcement or what have you. So yeah.
Thank you. I just think that a lot of people think that the school board has carte blanche on information that we don't, and we shouldn't. That's FERPA violations. We shouldn't know about what every student what's going on with every student. We should know incidents that occur, but we don't need to know private information until it gets risen to us, because that was what someone had once said, until it gets appealed to the board. That's why we don't get a lot of that information, is the name, so that you could call parents and all this other crazy things that I've heard from some board members. If it gets elevated to us, we would have to deal with that family, student, parents, whatever the case may be. So it's better for us not to know who the student is before that.
So again, there's a critical delicate balance in terms of the superintendent maintaining strong lines of communication with his or her board of education. But to your point, there is a due process with certain significant situations, and so I need to balance giving some kind of a generic heads up communication, but still leaving a lot of room for the specifics for when we do get to those scenarios with the due process component.
Absolutely, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Scholarship concerns, Jackie Napolitano?
So I was sent some things about scholarship that I'm not too happy about. I'm hearing that there are some issues with it in regards to students' personal information. I also saw that they have it's like strange, they have the ability to develop quarantine rooms where 6 students can be taken, using this and tracking them. And also, yeah, it's right on the scholarship website, as a matter of fact, I did my research. So, I mean, I'm just trying to find out, what are we doing here? I don't really love this idea. It says that they can track students, they can track them in isolation rooms, they can track them in private bathrooms. I was a little bit taken back by this, considering I wasn't totally sold on this thing. It feels like there's some issues with scholarship being delving a little too deep into our children's privacy. And I mean, I'm not too happy with the things that I looked at.
All right, so in a moment, I'm gonna take the baton and pass it down to Ms. Poppy. I think with a lot of products, you have options and you have ways that you can implement. It doesn't mean that when, just like at home, when you buy a product, it's like buying a car. Maybe you could, get X, Y, Z options on that car, but you choose not to. So I think with a lot of products, you have a variety of options. Doesn't mean you implement them all. So I think there's 2 components here. And if Ms. Poppy is able to speak to it, if not, we can certainly follow up. One is, how do we utilize scholarship? And 2, have we had any technical issues, which we have, that we've been addressing? And I can ask Ms. Poppy to please speak to both of those components. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So in terms of what scholarship is capable of doing versus how we use scholarship within our schools is certainly a point that we've explored together in the past. And I know that the product itself has particular capabilities, but to Dr. Sentamore's point, we don't employ those particular capabilities. So our students are connected to scholarship through eSchool. So the information that is within eSchool is that same information that scholarship accesses. Relative to a student's schedule, where they're meant to be period by period on a daily basis, we've been experiencing some issues in terms of the communication between eSchool and scholarship itself. That is a real scenario, and we are working diligently with scholarship, with BOCES, and with eSchool to rectify the situation. We know factually that we are not the only local district that's experiencing similar issues. And some of these issues are related to the programming that is allowing for the communication between those platforms to occur. It is a work in progress. It's certainly frustrating for a number of reasons, but we are experiencing that communication issue currently. It's being worked on. In terms of the data pull, we're not accessing information or following students in ways that are, aligned with what you're sharing regarding the software's capability. So we're not following students into particular rooms, we're not grouping them by their location, except that the platform does have access to a student's schedule, right? So we're able to see whether they're supposed to be in a particular location at a particular time when that ID card is tapped against the kiosk.
Well, I mean, like today, me and Jackie, we were at the high school and we wanted to just see how it works. And we saw that it was already not really working right. So that was one. I mean, it's faulty to begin with. But the other issue, I mean, I spoke to a representative and they stated that parents should be informed due to the data mining nature of a lot of these contracts. And that I was also told to do my research and follow the evidence, that it points to agency overreach. So I'm asking you to please bring me that research at the next board meeting. I know that we've looked into it. I know that you know I've always been very I'm not fully sold on this. I understand the idea. I love that everyone has their ideas and stuff like that, but I'm not fully sold on some of this. And like I said, especially when I go looking at the website myself, and I see that a lot of it has to do with, let's move kids into quarantine rooms for COVID, and we're gonna follow them, and then it's gonna get sent to a data mining, that's a problem. That's some scary stuff. If it's bad enough we don't want our kids' social security numbers, I don't want my kids' social security numbers out there, because you see identity theft left and right. You see people who will become you'll see someone being you. Some of this is a little bit scary that I delved into, and so I would just like to make sure that we are really towing that line and making sure we don't go over it, because again, I'm not fully sold on this. Me personally, I would rather suspend the whole thing, but that's just me.
So part of this goes back to, which we've discussed in previous board meetings, about quality control, about things we purchase, things we implement. And as I've been saying since July 1, we're going to stay, Connecticut School District is going to stay in that middle lane. We're going to keep the outside influences and politics out. So some of these options, someone can deem them to be politically skewed. That's not where we're going. So that's one component. The other piece about personal identifiable information, and Lisa can help speak to this. A couple of years ago, there was a law passed, Ed Law 2D, that speaks to agencies such as school districts, needing to have safeguards in place to protect personal identifiable information. And then when you bring in vendors, they have to be in compliance with Ed Law 2D. Ms. Hutchinson, if you could give a robust yet succinct overview on Ed Law 2D, and then Ms. Poppy, if you could follow that up and just speak to the assurance of this product with that.
So education law 2D was enacted because of exactly what the concerns you have now, right? These outside vendors may have access to student data, so they have to provide to the district the plan they have in place to protect the data. If there is a breach of the data, because breaches happen, they have to share with the district what their plan is in order to continue to protect that data and send notification to the district, and the district sends notification to the parents that there has been a breach. So there's multiple layers of protection under Education Law 2D in order to notify parents, have the data plans, have the plan in case of breach, so that there is an attempt to protect. So, that's the most I can say, only because it's always you're attempting to protect. There's nothing that's foolproof, but there are multiple layers of responsibilities placed on the vendors and placed on the district to protect the information, especially the student data, because they do understand that there is that access.
And all of our software programs are beholden to that particular process. We purchase Scholarship and its component features through BOCES, and the BOCES does provide an umbrella in terms of Ed Law 2D. So if you make purchases through BOCES, there is a guarantee that the companies that are represented through BOCES have this level of compliance that Ms. Hutchinson spoke to in Education Law 2D. So that's the protective factor that's represented through Ed Law and represented in our purchase of this particular software.
We had to create very specific contracts with each vendor. It's a lot of work. In order to make sure that they were compliant with Education Law 2D. Otherwise, the district cannot enter into a contract with a company that is not compliant and doesn't show how they're compliant.
The other thing is that, which I totally understand all that, but if there were to be, let's just say they're compliant, they do all that, but a breach happens at that point? the information's there. It's,
Yeah, I mean,
it's, they let the people know, but then the information's out there, so that's.
and they have to take steps to cure the breach and things of that nature.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're in a world of not paper, right? So we're in that world we're in the electronic world, and everything is based on these differing platforms. And so, while it came kind of late, Ed Law 2D, because everybody was kind of moving in that direction, they were like, oh my gosh, breaches. And then they created the law. This is just an attempt to address what the needs of school districts are and society as a whole, and try to protect that information. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say, because, right, breaches can happen.
Yeah, and I'm sure you remember back in, I think it was April, as a parent, I addressed multiple concerns about scholarship, and not only just what Jackie mentioned, but also they track behavioral and discipline. I mean, just the capabilities of this company alone. I've always had concerns about that, and I really would, I would be for suspending it too if we could find something better, because the concerns are just, and that's scary. They're just supposed to be able to get to their class and all that other information, and if it's for data mining, no, that's just not good. So I have the exact same concern, so I would appreciate that extra information as well.
And also, I want to get a rundown of what it costs. Because like I said, I was at the high school, and we watched kids try to scan into the lunchroom, and it wasn't working. So, if it's faulty and we're paying for this service,
I don't remember approving to pay for any of this, because I've never liked scholarship.
well, there's got to be a fee.
And I
There
don't
has to be a fee
So-
associated,
so-
unless it's under grant money, which is something, which it probably is.
So when these were initially purchased, the kiosks themselves, they were purchased with grant monies, with federal grant monies. And any ancillary purchases have been made through our IT department in order to fulfill requests for replacement cards, right? The ID mechanism that the students use to tap into the cafeteria and tap into the school building at the high school in the morning. So there is cost associated with it. The main costs relative to the purchase of those kiosks was accomplished through federal grant monies.
Well, and when we go over it again, can you just have the information for us?
I will.
I'm just, like I said, I want to hear from the people using it. Is it worth what we're dealing with? To say that we know who's in the lunchroom? I understand it from a couple of different angles. I understand it from a security standpoint. It's great to have the ability to know in the event of an emergency. But I still see a lot of issues. And especially since we saw it in the last year, there were major breaches in cyber security in just along Suffolk County in general. We should, I just think that these are important things that parents need to make sure that they are aware of. I was at an actual meeting where they spoke about this heavily. And it wasn't, and when they said scholarship, I went like this, oh wait, I have that at our school district. What's that? And I listened, and I was kind of taken back at what people were saying. And then I said, wow, I never heard of any of this. So other districts are having issues with it. It's not like, there is some pushback, my understanding.
And I'm also, something that I forgot, which I actually heard about at the PTSA meeting, that not only are students using it to enter into the lunchroom, but the bathrooms as well. So I don't know if I think something might have gone out, but I did hear that.
The bathroom just started at the high school
That just
last
started,
week.
right? Okay.
But just the high school.
And to my knowledge, they're not using the kiosks in the same way that they're used in the cafeteria and at the main entrance as well. So we may be talking about two different systems per se for bathroom entry and school entry, cafeteria entry. But I can look into
I
that.
actually think it's good, and I know it's going to sound off base, to have something where you know who was in the bathroom last, especially since we've had issues with restrooms, I'd like to see all the restrooms eventually all open. I would like to see them all manned if possible. I would like to see that kids don't have to go, past the bathroom because it's locked to get to another bathroom. That being said, I have no issue, me personally, with hearing about, kids having to sign in and out of a bathroom. Unfortunately, if we lived in a perfect world, but with the way things have happened, we've had bathrooms that have gotten destroyed. We've had things happen in bathrooms that, so I kind of understand that sense. Maybe not even just a sign in, but I'm just saying, I saw that it was faulty. If something's faulty and we're paying for it, I just want to know what is the.
I will bring the contracts forward for the board for the review so that you can see, as well as a rundown of the costs associated with scholarship.
And
Thank you.
just for clarity, in terms of feedback, we want to hear from our administration, to have the implementation and what issues they're having, maybe beyond the technical. Okay. All right.
So, I do want to clarify because I just got a message that the scholarship, the kiosk, which I referenced before for bathroom use, is separate and apart. So it's not the same system. We're not using the kiosk that we typically use for entrance into the cafeteria and into the building for our bathroom scanning. We just don't have the appropriate number of kiosks. It's a different mechanism entirely. So.
And I do believe the vast majority of bathrooms are open and manned, so.
So the scholarship program is a ID mechanism for the children. When the students enter the building, they tap, and it tells them if they're supposed to be in the building or not supposed to be in the building, and it lets them into the building. And now they're utilizing it for bathrooms.
For lunch, but they
So
have
they also do take attendance in the homerooms and in every period.
They use it for lunch too, because if they tap in, I think it's green. I'm just gonna make, there's a color, it goes if you're supposed to be in the lunchroom, and if you're not supposed to be in the lunchroom, it's a different color. So I think they know, and so the kids can't be in the lunchroom
A lot of
and be
kids,
cutting class.
it prevents cutting class. A lot of kids were just going to hang out in the lunchroom, in the cafeteria, so. Well, because it'll turn green or red that they're not supposed to be in there and they're sent back.
Why are they scanning it for the bathroom?
So it's more to know where the student is, if there's a lockout or a lock.
From the teacher, and they have a pass from the room, and they have their ID that they're scanning. So there's three.
I didn't know of all the steps to get into the restroom. I thought, right, I just thought that they were just doing I thought the hall passes from the teachers were until this was fully implemented. But it's to know where the student is. God forbid there's any kind of lockout, lockdown, and they need to find a child, and now they know where they are. It's also in case there's an incident in the restroom, they know who was there. I thought that there were sign-in sheets.
I can
I mentioned that at
clarify.
the PTSA meeting. I'm like, but there's sign-in sheets. And they're like, well, sometimes kids don't write the right name. So now they have the right name. They know exactly which kid it is. Sometimes Tommy writes Johnny instead of Tommy. So now he's actually Tommy when he scans his card.
So the scanning in the restrooms is a preventative measure. It is, again, not connected to scholarship. It's essentially a time and date stamp for the student when they enter the restroom. Again, a different mechanism. Scholarship is activated when students walk into the building in the morning. They tap their ID card against the kiosk, and their name is recorded, their attendance is recorded in the building as they're walking in. In addition, we do still conduct old-fashioned period-by-period attendance that's delivered by the teacher to the attendance office through eSchool. And in addition, we do use scholarship at the entrance to the cafeteria to, as you mentioned before, to record students in that space.
And it's the same card, like with the same, electronic data on it that works for two different systems, scholarship and then whatever the other system is.
The other system
one card.
is scanning a barcode on the card, correct.
Okay.
And scholarship is responsive to a chip that's inside the ID card.
I'm gonna
Okay.
ask a crazy question, but if we have two, why not use the one we're using for the bathroom is it not capable of doing what the scholarship does? So that we have our own internal?
We're just starting out with it, so I will let you know.
Where is that information going that's getting the bathroom use?
That's for administrative use in the high school.
So that is stored going to administration.
Correct.
So if I ask somebody how many times my daughter went to the bathroom, you can type in her name and tell me.
I don't know whether it's a daily collection of information, whether it's a period by period collection of information. I'd have to find out more information about how they're collecting that data.
Thank you. 9/11 curriculum, Jackie Napolitano.
I wanted to find out what went on across district. I was saddened to hear that there was a PA failure at the high school, and there wasn't much done, pretty much. So I wanted to know what was done across district at the other schools. Like I said, I understand that we do have technical difficulties at times. I still believe something could have been done later on that day, and it wasn't. I did go to RMS. I don't know, we were there for, I believe, first day of school. And then I was there for another reason a week after, I think it was open school night. And what I absolutely loved is a social studies teacher was telling the class of parents about what they had just done a few days earlier for 9/11 and how it was, they moved up that piece of curriculum because it happened, even though they normally would teach it at the end of the year, they were gonna teach it on the day, which it was a nice idea, and I loved it. And I just wanna understand why we can't get this across district. I've been fighting for it now for 5 years.
So I'm going to let Ms. Poppy talk about what happened on 9/11 in terms of the, last Monday and what occurred in our schools. And then I'm going to jump back in and comment a little bit more.
So in recognition of September 11th, all of our buildings paused in order to recognize Patriot Day. Those recognitions happened differently according to the building. In most instances, and I'm going to generalize here, there was an announcement that was made over the mass communication system in the school, recognizing the day, its significance, its history, and relating to students in an age-appropriate way the importance and significance of the school's observation of either a moment of silence, some thoughtful moments where they're having discussions in the classroom, some opportunities for our administrators to enter classrooms and read books that are age appropriate to students in order to highlight the important things that happened on September 11th and the days that followed. And so, again, these experiences, while they're unique to our schools, I can say that all 10 schools had a plan for recognition. We did have a PA failure in the moment of that recognition at the high school. And my understanding is that the sentiment that was meant to be read was read. It was audible in most places in the high school, but perhaps not in every single classroom. The sentiment was posted in the Google Classrooms in order to commemorate, again, September 11th and the importance of the day. And while I realize that that may not have the same impact, the effort was made to kind of back up the significant moment in a way that was accessible to all students after that PA failure. And things do happen, and I know that they were addressed as rapidly as they possibly could have been. And the attempt was still made to go ahead and make that recognition. In our social studies classes, September 11th is part of the New York State framework for social studies instruction. And so we saw a number of discrete lessons, again, age appropriate according to the child's readiness level to receive that information and according to the standards themselves. This occurred in social studies classrooms across the school district, but certainly depended upon the unique and distinct classroom itself in terms of how the instruction was delivered at specific grade levels. I'm really glad to hear about the experience at RMS in that social studies classroom, and I'm so excited to hear that the teachers shared that during open school night. I think that's an important piece in terms of communicating with our families. I've also seen some wonderful posts on our social media outlets that highlight the different efforts that were made on that day, whether it was wearing red, white, and blue, whether it was a recognition through our PTSAs, whether it was situations, for example, John Pearl has a brand new Instagram page, and there were some lovely videos that were posted of the principal of that building reading to classes, particular books that were selected for the age group. And so that was just exciting to see. I think, the things are happening in our schools in response to and in commemoration of September 11th. It's sometimes that broader communication in terms of allowing the public to see that our schools are revering and recognizing the day, that may be something that we can continue to work on.
You want to know, I have to say too, that OBMS has for a few years, their PTA, I believe it is, and I know it was the RMS PTA this year in putting down the flags for 9/11, which I thought was a beautiful gesture. A shout out definitely to, I didn't go to the OBMS, I was working, I normally get to go to both, but I did make it to the RMS, and I got to see the principal and assistant principal were out there in the massive heat helping the kids put out every single flag. It was awesome. So really a shout out to all of the different admin and building staff and teachers and aides and whoever was out there, our buildings and grounds, who helped put out whatever they did to show some support, for 9/11, because really it's something that touched everyone. And I want to just thank them because I really do appreciate showing some support to our families, especially those on 9/11. I was able to go to the Lakeland Firehouse, which had 5 of our alumni who died. 5 Connecticut graduates that died on 9/11 were recognized that night. And I mean, so I do appreciate that we as a community are still recognizing and never forgetting.
So this is interesting discussion because I remember as a building administrator on Pearl Harbor Day, making an announcement over the PA about Pearl Harbor Day. My instructional background is social studies, and every year that goes by, the kids are further removed from the events. And I remember getting feedback about, why are we still talking about Pearl Harbor? And I was in shock and awe over how could we not, on this day. And for those of us who lived through the horrors of that tragic day, certainly our first responders, later on our military, certainly the people who have passed on from illnesses related, since then, this will linger with us forever, just like, the generations that came before us who lived through Pearl Harbor and then that horrible World War and, what other historical events. So I think what's probably a good idea is we have a very active curriculum committee, is for them to take a look at this, and it does need to be looked at, and the point has come up in terms of age appropriateness, with the little ones. That's why, a principal huddling with a book, and a lot of the themes could be about kindness. When you think back to that horrific event, one of the positives is how it brought us together and people being kind and the sacrifices being made for one another and this emphasis on service, whether it was our first responders, later on our military, and it's so hard to talk to little ones about tragedy. But every year that goes by and that event becomes a year more in the rearview mirror and the kids, they're further removed, it does become a challenge in terms of, we want to honor, remember those who have fallen, those who serve, and what is the appropriate way, because it's ever evolving. So, I know our curriculum committee has a lot of areas of focus, which is great, but this is probably, we have a whole year just to kind of dive into a little bit and see at the primary, the intermediate, the middle, the high school level, what's in a,
It would be great if you could do that with all of them, not just 9/11. I would love to see it, how we had years ago, it was one of the first things I advocated was to bring back that some patriotism for these holidays. You know, we're at school for some of them, and if not, like Veterans Day. You know, I still have not made it over there, but I hear that Idle Hour does an amazing, I'm gonna make it there this year, I know I am. But it's hard because I have an allegiance, my own children, with RMS, and then I go to Cherokee, even though I have no one there anymore. I went there as a kid, so I feel like I need to get over there. They do such a beautiful job. We did, last year, we made it to the high school, because they were nicely staggered, it was great. That's the other thing, I know we can't do this, but if they're staggered, it's great. You know, like Halloween, it's staggered, we can make it to a couple different Halloween parades for the kids. It's so nice to see going to these celebrations and seeing the kids involved, and seeing that because they're removed. You know, I'm not a big social studies buff, but I'll never forget December 7th is Pearl Harbor Day, because we talked about it in school. We taught it. Like, you know, it's important to not forget these dates, because as you get more removed from them, people forget. And I don't want to see them ever forget, especially when it's something that touched so many people, and it happened during our generation. You know, like these are things, we're talking about Pearl Harbor, that happened long time. You know, these are things that happen, and we need to still recognize all of them. We need to know about, you know, grandparents that were Vietnam vets. We need to know about the grandparents that were in, or great-grandparents that were in World War II. You know, I want my kids to come home and know what went on. You know, I want all kids to know. These are things that I think would benefit during the curriculum committee, would be to look at these different events that happened and see if we can do something special around them.
It's certainly a topic that I can broach with the curriculum committee. We haven't had our first meeting yet this year. I'm anticipating that we'll be getting off the ground in October, and that will certainly be something that we will explore together.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. I just wanted to add too with the flags. I mean, OBMS does an amazing job. I do love seeing it. RMS. I know when I went to the high school, they had my daughter had a game that day, and they also put out flags, so that was also great to see. It's just, I like seeing it. Moving on, security, Jackie D.
Hi, yes, I wanted to, just to let the community know a little something that I learned at, the Bohemia Civics meeting. I'm on the board there. When we had our head of security come to one of the meetings, and he had said that, you know, yes, there's school security, but they want to know everything that's going on in the community, because when you know things that are going on, it really does help to make the school safer if you know what's going on around you. So I kind of just wanted to do that and thank them. You know, that information kind of is what led me, you know, we had received a correspondence from Dr. Senamore about something, and I had driven by and seen a commotion outside the high school. So I had gone to high school security, because I said that's where I'm going to go, because I know that they are like kind of just, that was the quickest way, and I think that's so important to know that they really are there, and I want to thank them for that, for being there for us, whether it in school, after school, whenever, they are there. And I thought that was a very important thing for them to tell the civics meeting, that they're there 24/7, always there. So I wanted to just thank them for that and let you know.
You guys are the best.
Security.
Our school security are truly the best. Look, we got them in the
And it's not
back.
because you're in the room. We just
Give
love
them a
you.
round of applause. No, you guys really do work 24/7. I mean, I know that we can be a pain, this bunch. I know that I definitely can be. So I really, she's right, Jackie's right. We've called you guys for things, and you jump on it. You hear a horn of a car, you guys are on top of these things. Really, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll be sure next time that I am not in my cleaning outfit when I go to pick up my kid. Sorry about my appearance that day.
School
Thank you,
year
though. Seriously,
beginning.
Thank you.
Jackie D.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to bring up that I wanted to thank Dr. Centimore for inviting us to go around with him on the first day of school. Jackie and I went to go visit a lot of schools. And it really was a wonderful experience that morning. I even got to see some of the UPK kids, and they are so cute. So it was really, really fantastic to do that and to see the kids and see them in that, setting on the first day of school, and even to see the staff as they're, learning the kids' names and introducing themselves and getting acquainted with their students. So it really was a wonderful experience. And the other thing too is I wanted to just thank even our PTAs and everybody that volunteered for open school nights. I went to two of them myself as a parent, and one of them I worked at the library table, but at all of them I saw Scepter there. And one of the things I thought that was really fantastic at the middle school was since they were at the middle school, it was actually the PTSA from the high school hosting their table. And I know that the high school's open school night is coming up this week. And from what I understand, the middle school PTA is going to host their table so that they can each go to their own children's classes. I think that collaboration is wonderful. And I just want to give those parents a shout out because SEPTA was there every night. And one night we had 4 schools at one time. So a lot of these groups, Boy Scouts and everybody, they kind of split themselves up to be there. And I think overall it was just really a fantastic experience to see all of that. And I want to, thank you for inviting us to go along with you, especially on that first day, because it was definitely great. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. I have to jump on this one because you were adorable, and I have to tell everybody because every year I take off on the first day of school, and every year my parents are like, "You're burning a day of work?" I said, "I got it. My kids are too old now. It's not fun. I love going to the middle schools, and I love going to the elementary schools and seeing the little guys. They were precious. The parents were awesome. They were so nice to all of us. Jackie was you were like, she was like getting teary-eyed looking at the little guys going in. They were so cute. Dr. Centimore was dancing, and I do mean, yes, you are. He was two-stepping it for kids who were getting upset. He was walking them in and two-stepping it with the principals.
There's no footage of that.
Bravo across district to all of our schools, but especially our elementary schools, the administrators, the teachers, the social workers, every single person. Security was helping walk them in. They were amazing. The first day of school is my favorite day to actually go to the schools. And like I said, it's one of the best days to take off. I do not mind burning a day because it is so much fun. It really makes it, when people say, "Why do you guys put up with this? Why do you do that? Why would you do this? You're out of your mind." It's for days like that. Days like that to walk around, to see all the kids happy, to welcome the teachers back, to welcome back staff, thank them for their service. It was a great, great day overall. So thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. Foils, April Iannatelli.
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to explain to the public what happens with the FOIL process, because I think many of you, were encouraged to FOIL all these things and, get the emails and do this stuff. It costs the district money, and I want everybody to understand that. So when you FOIL something, the process is that it goes to the district clerk. She asks IT to, pull the information that was requested. It then goes back to the district clerk for her to go through. This could be hours of time, depending on how large the FOIL is. After the district clerk, it goes to the lawyers who redact. So most of the information that you thought you were getting is now marked out. You can't even see it. So, it's redacted. And we have to pay them their hourly fee. That is not under any contract we have with them. That's an hourly fee that we have to pay them to redact all of these FOILs. So what I want to say is that if you are going to request a FOIL, be very, very specific, because the district keeps the emails for 7 years by law. They have to in their archives. So it's not like it can disappear, someone can take it away, anything. Be very specific, try to put it to the exact time you need. And I'm only encouraging this, that we lower the cost to the lawyers, the time that, our poor district clerk has to take IT. and that everybody understands the process, and the fact that the end result, you might not even get the information that you wanted, because again, if it deals with personnel, a student, anything like that, it's going to be redacted.
I also want to just add too that I think since you bring up the cost of legal fees, I think it's important for the community to know that it did cost over $4,000 to investigate my eligibility, which was questioned by a sitting trustee. It cost over $4,000 for that legal bill to investigate whether or not I was eligible to sit up here, because I work at the Connecticut Public Library. Something that it was done after the election, could disenfranchise all the people that did vote for me. So I think,
Didn't you foil?
and I did foil that, so I did see that as well, so I have.
But
all
I
that
think that's the
information. So I
point
think
that
it's important
April's
for
trying to
people
make, is that
understand
they're
that.
expensive, and I think that now that she's sitting on the board, she realizes how expensive they are.
But there is something called transparency, and I think that we pay taxes, and while we talk about spending money, we had a sitting board member who wanted to investigate another board member for anonymous
I understand.
emails.
I don't think April's
Anonymous
point
emails.
was to deter people from foiling.
So-
She was just trying to
Well-
explain the process and the costs associated.
Well, I would like to encourage the community that if they choose to foil something because there's something to foil, or they feel there's something to foil, I know myself as a parent, if I believe my child is being spoken about or I'm being spoken about in an email, I'm gonna ask for it to be foiled. I'm certainly never gonna discourage parents from don't foil because it may cost a couple of dollars to the district. If we really wanna start with cutting fees, let's start cutting them in a lot of different lines. Let's not cut them on the lines that somebody may not agree with because they're anti-American or something. Let's start cutting them on a line that maybe needs the cutting. I would suggest that first. And I would actually suggest that if you're a new board member who has not gone through training yet, you should never, in an email, write that maybe we should call legal, because that costs money too, to ask them about if we should investigate a board member from an anonymous email that speaks about a board member when they were 16 or 17 years old, which is kind of pathetic, actually.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the floor for the first public comment portion of the agenda.
I have one more thing to say.
Okay,
Sorry. Well,
no, April can finish her discussion.
No, not about this. I had another topic that I wanted to discuss. I just wanted to, I made a list of highlights also, so I just wanted to.
We're just trying to stick to the agenda,
Okay.
so, okay.
Hang on, what does she do?
I didn't have anything else to say, so I wanted to say something else. I just wanted to put shout outs out there, because in the last week, I also want to agree that the PTAs are amazing, and that, for anybody who doesn't know what they do, that they really raise so much money for the students in our district and give back so many events and fun, exciting, great educational programs through BOCES, through everything else. So I want to give a huge shout out to them. I want to give a shout out to many teachers who go above and beyond, in the sense of, I can only speak for what I've witnessed in this last week, that, after hours, they obviously don't get paid for after hours. At the PTA meeting at the high school, we had Mr. Moran, Mr. Sidman, we had Miss Goodwin, Miss Pisani. They all came out to speak. They all came out to talk about what they're involved in and the things that they do. This is amazing. We have Mr. Carticello, who on Saturdays takes the time out and he's bringing kids to the city to go see plays on his day off. Taking kids to go see plays to encourage them and show them a different piece of life. These things are amazing. We have Mr. Mallory, Mr. Moran, who are at games. Mr. Mallory's running on the the cart to help other teams get water because it was so hot out, and he was helping get them something to drink. We really have some amazing staff members and students. I sit at these games and when we were losing and the kids everybody was happy and the adults, it was still encouraging. And I think we lose sight sometimes of these great, wonderful things that happen in the district. So I just wanted to point out and give a couple of highlights that these things are amazing, and we do have teachers that go above and beyond, and staff members.
I believe that most of the PTAs, the principal comes to speak. So I'd like to also not just highlight the high school, we should say that for all the principals and all the teachers who are gonna go to PTA meetings or went to PTA meetings, we can thank them. Because really, even though we're not at every PTA, they're going after hours, and we appreciate it. And I'm sure Dr. Sentimore has gone to a bunch as well.
Definitely appreciate everybody's participation at those meetings, and we encourage it.
Thank you. Okay, so I am now going to open the floor for the first public comment portion of the agenda. This public comment period is for consent agenda items only. An additional public comment period will be taking place later on in the evening. Please raise your hand if you have a question or comment on the consent agenda item. Okay, so, I have to read the. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and relate to consent agenda items only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance to Policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. Number one. Can I just ask you to state which consent agenda so we can follow along?
I'm not sure, is the scholar chip, was that on the consent?
That's not on the consent agenda.
Was the hiring practices that you guys were just talking about, you know, that we need?
That is not on the consent agenda.
That'd be the regular public time.
Okay, but my only question is, y'all are talking about it up there.
Right, there, I believe,
So it should.
Jesse, am I wrong? Is there not a consent agenda list out?
The a printed agenda is outside. The consent agenda is just a small portion of action items.
Oh, I totally understand what you're saying. We're discussing it.
Okay, and you guys are talking about things that are very pertinent.
I believe security has 2 sets of cards, one for consent agenda and one for,
No, and I got scolded when I tried to take 2 cards at the last meeting. So, you know, you hear where I'm coming from. You guys are talking about pertinent things that we want to address. And then we have to wait till the very end, which, okay, but we're only allotted 1 card. So if we had other questions, we're allotted 1 card in 3 minutes. Yet you guys are sitting up there explaining things. I have a question about scholarship.
totally understand, and you could definitely come to the podium and discuss it during the second half of the,
You see where my problem is?
I understand where the confusion is coming in.
Not confusion,
We
it's
should
a
mo-
problem.
We should opt to move the public comment up. I always felt that keeping everybody here to listen to things, I always felt when I sat in the seat out there and everyone could tell me that it was being done to try to make people believe. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but that's what I feel like. It's to tire people out and then they leave. It may not be why people did it like this. I'm not saying, I'm just giving my opinion. But I would like it.
3 minutes.
No, but I would like at the next meeting, can we all vote or make a motion or something, or just switch it? To move the public comment so that people can speak earlier.
Well, when Dr. Senimore and I sit to create the next agenda, we can certainly change the order.
People to have more than 1 card, so that we can address what you guys are talking about to the public.
I do believe that is our policy. No,
I got scolded publicly.
Jesse, if you can pull that policy on public comment.
No, I got yelled at more than once and told no. So that was not the policy 15 years ago, but now it is. And I'll respect it.
I think that's right. We should allow people to talk
Hold on,
twice
let
if there's
Jesse-
only 3.
Let's just,
Okay, so a few things. The policy, it's policy 1230. There's nothing in there about multiple speakers within that 30-minute period. It's silent on that. I believe it's been silent on that for years and years and years to come past. It is something that the policy committee can discuss and look into, absolutely, but it is a policy. And so that would have to be addressed through the proper avenues. As far as the public comment on open agenda items or on open discussion, I just want to point out that if the vote, there's 2 voting actions for the board to do, and then it's that time for that open discussion. So there's not a ton of time in between the board's discussion and that open public comment, just as an FYI.
I think what Jesse is saying that basically like we had our board discussions that we spoke. And then for the public comment portion that comes after that, where you can address those concerns, the only thing that's in between that is basically, it's like a few minutes of
It's
other
usually 2
agenda
or
items.
3 action items.
It's only a few action, I think that's what you're trying to say, that there's only a few action items. We're moving up the public comment, would just make it be where you're basically doing your public comment maybe 2 minutes earlier than you would have, because the agenda isn't so packed. Is that what you're, okay.
Jesse, can we change the, flip our process instead of having our open discussion, do the open
We could
discussion at the end?
definitely, Dr. Sonamora and I, when we sit to make the next agenda, we can certainly move things around. So no one has anything on the consent agenda, right? Sorry. Okay, so now, can I have a call for a motion and a second to approve the instructional and non-instructional personnel items as presented?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Can I call for a motion and a second to approve items 2 through 6 of the consent agenda?
Motion.
Anyone have any questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Marisol, I just wanna, when you guys do the agenda for next meeting, speak to the other board members and ask them if they agree to moving up the public speaking. We are probably better off, even with board discussions, having some of that stuff afterwards. I don't mind speaking at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night if the audience is empty. Let them speak first. They have
100%.
something.
100%.
I think they want to speak on our topics, though. So they, right, so they want to hear our topics and speak about our topics.
Then it would be right after, and then
Yeah, and I agree with that, 100%.
So now I will open the floor to the public comment portion of the agenda. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping to the podium. You should have received a number card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard at the back of the room. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and relate to school matters only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. Person number 1.
Hello, my name is Virginia Riccio, and I'm here to speak about an incident that had occurred on the 12th. I know the superintendent was notified about it from a principal, and it had to do with a bus stop situation. And it was, I've been informed, which I can't find through your policies, and that's why I thought to come to the school board to ask about this, about the policy of second grader not being allowed to be let off the bus by themselves without somebody to get them off. It's apparently a policy throughout the district that's not listed anywhere. All that I see listed on the website is that kindergarten and first, your parents have to fill out a form to say who's to take them off the bus. There's nothing listed from second to fifth. We had a situation that my granddaughter, I won't mention names as you said, was let off of the bus by herself. early. My husband was coming out of the house and she was entering the back of the house. We were very upset about it because we weren't aware that this is a policy, which I would like to know from all of you where that is listed, that second and fifth can be let off alone. And only to find out later from a concerned parent that got a hold of me because I was working. She knew that I was on Facebook and said, is she all right? She wasn't just let off at the wrong bus. She wasn't let off at her bus stop. She was let off at the wrong bus stop, the next one. Because she panicked when the bus pulled up and didn't see somebody there, stayed on the bus, only to be let off at the next stop, which she was not, people didn't know her at. 7 years old, being let off at a bus. Not even in the second policy that the transportation supposedly has is a child supposed to cross in front of the bus when they get off alone because there's not a parent there to cross them. The bus driver left the scene, left her, and she was panicking. And we live at 1274 Ocean, right down the block. So we live on Ocean Avenue. So she got off the bus at Ubel and walked up to our house, panicking. She ran into the house, told my husband, feel my heart's racing because she's not allowed to cross the street. We complained we met up the next morning. We went to the office there to let them know our findings. The day before I had called and told them that she was let off without her. They told me fill out the form and she would not be, if we fill out the form and say she's not to be let off, she will, they'll bring her back to the school, which we said is fine. All right, we'll fill out the form. Then when we found out later the other information that she was left at the wrong stop and that she did not cross in front of the bus, I found that as a big problem. So we went to the district, we called the principal of her school, which I know I had notified the superintendent's principal, was amazing, and called back immediately. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep, but there's just a lot to say. And he was very upset about it as well, and nobody can tell us where it's listed.
Right.
So as parents, we didn't know.
I'm so sorry that happened to your daughter. That must have been so scary. I'm actually going to ask Mr. Hauser, who does transportation, if he
Okay.
can explain the policy.
Sure. And once, I apologize for what you had to experience. I'm familiar with the incident that took place mainly because I was in touch with our Director of Transportation, who actually reprimanded and spoke to the bus driver on the one particular day, I think, when their granddaughter was let off the bus and had to walk by herself. And I think that issue also with crossing in front of the bus.
Left off at the wrong stop.
Yep, I'm aware of that. So our Director of Transportation is aware. We have spoken to, and we have issued, I'll say, a disciplinary letter to the bus driver. I don't know the exact location where the policy would be posted for the grade levels. I do believe it is the kindergarten, first grade that are not to be let off the bus unless a parent or a guardian is present.
Yeah, but excuse me, but if it isn't listed, how are parents supposed to know a 7-year-old can be let off by themselves? If you don't even know where it's listed, how are
Right.
we supposed to know?
I agree, yep. So let me, if you don't mind, let me research that for you, okay? Maybe if you can communicate with your, the information so I can get back to you, I'd appreciate, just give me a little bit of time to do that.
A recommendation would be, as a parent, I would feel that the letter that's given to the kindergarten and first grade to fill out should come with the bus pass and leave it to the parents' discretion if they want the kids let off from second up. Or they can sign the paper. It covers the district as well. We talked a lot about safety today. We're going to know when kids are in the bathroom. You're not going to know where a second grader is when she gets off that bus. Luckily, she was able to cross the street safely, or this could have ended, we could be having a whole other conversation here.
Right.
And I know she was reprimanded, and I know the union rep was called in. But I do have to tell you about an incident today. Same bus driver passed the bus stop today, passed right by the parents, went to the second bus stop, realized it, so she's in a rush, realized it, turned around, went off route, and brought them back. So now she's at the other bus stop too early. I asked for that bus driver to be off of that route. I'm not looking to see her get fired, but I think she should be working with older kids.
Ma'am, I'm just gonna ask if you can take it to the side with Mr. Hauser and discuss with him, just because it seems like it's a personal issue at this point.
It's not a personal issue. It's
Personnel.
We really can't
But it's-
talk about
Okay.
certain schools.
Okay.
And we will make sure that this is taken care of, but we just think it's better to keep it private.
Right.
I just think that it's a policy issue that maybe could be addressed.
I was going to tell Jesse, not to cut you off, tell Jesse that I'm on the policy committee this year. And if it's a policy is it a policy that we are involved in? Because if it is, I will have no issue looking into amending it with the board's help.
I can't say for sure. I would have to look into it. I'll work with Bob and see where their information is listed.
Work with Bob and put that on for the first policy meeting. If that's a policy that the board is involved in, it'll be the first one that I recommend bringing to the board.
I remember years ago, they did, you know, and I can only speak for Boston, a letter did come home telling that policy. That I didn't know the policy number, but it said that, you know, only the kindergarten and first grade need someone off the bus. Otherwise, I've never heard it mentioned before besides this letter that it came home years ago.
Second grade should still be,
I think all grades, you
yeah.
should be, like you said, parent discretion, 100%.
I always thought-
Discretion to cover the district, right? Because if
Right.
the parent says, my kid's allowed off,
Right.
Okay.
We will definitely look into this. If you wanna just give your information to Mr. Hauser, and we'll get back to
okay,
you.
and how will I know how this is looked into? Because how will I,
So we will definitely be in communication with you.
okay,
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
and I'm sorry for your daughter again.
okay, thank you.
Number 2.
Like a stomachache from that makes me nervous as a mother. Can't. All right. Dr. Centimore, it's been wonderful having you these last couple months. You've been very visible around not only the district, but the community. I hope you've gotten to see all the wonderful children, the staff, the community. It's really been a breath of fresh air, so it's very nice. I'm going to start with the good. So, Ms. Poppy, before I start with the stuff you don't want to hear from me, how's the augmented reality stand tables coming along? Are we out for bid, or what are we doing on that? Stop the time.
So the board has to, make that request for us to investigate if that's their
That's
prerogative
okay.
to spend,
Okay.
funding that way.
Sounds good.
That would be the appropriate pathway for it.
Mhm.
The board generously gifted some supplies for our elementary computer science and engineering
Awesome.
classes for this school year. I don't know what they have their sights on for.
If you'd like any information on the
next
augmented
school year.
reality stand tables, I will be happy to send email to the board. I will not be anonymous. It will be from me because I've been tormenting you guys for
Hold on a
quite some
second,
time
I just
on
want to
this.
ask her not to take your time. That's why.
No, good.
I thought this was something that we already were getting. I thought this was something
I
that
thought so too. They said it was
Myron
going out
had
to
been
bid.
advocating for this for years. Well,
No, I actually sent it to Mylan, and we had said that it was going out to bid if we looked at
Yeah,
past
that's-
meetings, and it was $100,000 allocated to it. I remember the number.
Well, that was the board's gift, right? And so the board received proposals from, and this is in the past for new board members, the board received proposals from our schools at every level for the 3 years that we've, kind of enjoyed this opportunity. And the proposals from our schools and from our personnel did not include the augmented reality sandboxes. But if that's something that the board would like to consider spending these monies on, it's something that we can certainly look into with the board's gift for this upcoming school year.
I'll send an email with some videos to show you exactly what they are. They're from grades K through 12. It would be very great, hands-on learning, and they work in a variety of different ways. So it's good for every single child. It doesn't pinpoint one particular group. So it might be something that helps with the learning process.
Yes, please.
The other thing.
Well, just really, okay, guys, I'm gonna ask Christina, is that to mean that the schools didn't,
Okay.
they didn't request these sand tables, and that's why that wasn't part of the proposal?
So the initial gift from the Board of Education came to Connecticut High School in the form of the Anatomage table. I wasn't sitting at this dais at the time. I'm not quite sure how that gift ended up being bestowed at the high school. And the following year, the charge was that the board was interested in providing something in kind to both of our middle schools, right? So we had some discussions administratively with our faculty and our staff in terms of how we could spend that money. And we dreamed some improvements to our technology education suites in both buildings. The board was generous enough to go ahead and fund those proposals at that time. And the board approved that particular request for the use of those monies. We engaged a similar process last year with our elementary principals and our elementary faculty, representing, their desires and their needs, identifying certain needs that were in all 7 of our elementary schools. The proposal came through our computer science and engineering program because that is our Enrichment for All program. Every child is enriched by those experiences, by those instructional experiences at our elementary level. And so the conversation came around to, this is a gift, this is a way to really impact every single child and to benefit every single child at the elementary level. And so the board did approve that proposal last year as well. So we're cycling back to the high school this year as a board, and if that's something that the board would like to consider, that's the tack that we can certainly take and investigate.
So these
for the
tables
high
are only
school.
about $7,000 to $10,000 each, and the software gets updated every about 3 years. So it's really a minimal cost. So truthfully, every school's fund, principal fund, slush fund, however you want to name it on the budget, has this in their budget. So it's a possibility any way it could happen, even without it being a board gift. So that's just something to think about. I'm just going to move on from that. You guys can figure that out. Scholarship, it's nothing new. I told you guys all about this from the start. It's very nice that they're saying that they're not using these different parts of it. eSchool has a lot of data in it. Everyone doesn't seem to know that, but it does. And also, they didn't tell us they were going to use Scholarship, so they're not going to tell you either when they start using it to track your child's behavioral stuff or their IEP information or anything else. So I'm sorry, I have zero trust for it, so that's my personal opinion on it, if they were not transparent from the beginning about this, this product. The other suggestion I have is, Jackie, I'm glad they brought up that 9/11 is part of the New York State Educational Framework, which I already knew. A suggestion would be maybe a Patriots Luncheon for we have a lot of heroes that in our community that have served at 9/11, that were first responders or just everyday community workers that were down there that I've noticed in this town a lot. There's a lot. So what if the week after 9/11, our high school, because it's central, hosted with all of the schools, all of our community members that served, our first responders, our regular everyday community members, had a luncheon to celebrate them. Something like that that would bridge the community and the school district together in a way that would celebrate that we appreciate what they've done and we recognize we invite their families. Because a lot of people have lost. I mean, we had Mr. D'Onofrio recently, that passed away. These are a lot of people, and that's only just one. There's so many. That's just off the top of my head, just because I watched a video the other night. But so many different people in this community that contributed so much, and so many families are still suffering. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago. So I just think it would be just a nice thing to bridge the gap between the schools, the community, and everybody could feel part of it, because we do have children in our school that, the first batch, really, I hate to say it that way, of 9/11 babies was really like the class of 2020. So it's not that long ago. So if we could do something, that might be something. I would be willing to help on a committee with that, because I don't want to give anybody more jobs, but go to the fire departments, go to the local communities, go to the community centers, whatever we need to do. But I really think it's so important, especially post-pandemic, to try and bring people together for something positive and something to celebrate, that we appreciate you and we appreciate that we're all still here together. So I think that would just be something nice that we could do just as a community.
The fire departments and the PBAs would probably help out as well.
I think a lot would. There's a lot of 9/11 vigils that go around. It's difficult to get to all the different ones. And, people feel a lot of different ways about it. Some of us have worked during that. So we have a very different outlook on it. So, it brings up a lot of different things, but I just think bridging how we don't want the children to not understand it, it makes it age appropriate, but it's living history. So if you have the adults there and you have the children there and the families, there are children who, maybe never met a parent or an aunt or an uncle. They've only heard the stories, but if all those families come together, it's a nice connection. And then you have the community and the school children volunteering if they choose. Nothing mandatory. I would never do that. It would just be a nice thing, I think. But maybe like a week after 9/11, so everyone could have their moments however they would like to celebrate that day or not celebrate, or however they would like to handle that day. I just think it would just be a nice something to bridge the community together in some way.
I think that's a great idea, something to look into. Thank
So
you.
if there's anything, I'll definitely help.
Thank you. Number 3?
I did just want to, if you guys would like it, I got a bunch of stuff from the Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA. So it's magnets, all like pro mental health magnets, little cards that are for parents that say like how to talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol. There's probably about 100. There's like stickers that say like mental health matters. I feel like we've had worse stickers stuck around. So even if they do, they're in English and Spanish. So I just wanted to, if I can give these to you guys to give to the schools. Even it's probably like the high school would be the most well received, but there's like some pretty decent sized magnets, and they do have QR codes on them. They can scan. It'll connect them directly to 988 if they need it for the crisis hotline. So I just thought, they just send me stuff, and I was like, I definitely don't need 100 of anything. So that was that was the original reason I took the card. I do just want to kind of ask a question and mention one thing. Trying to be part of the solution rather than the problem. So the anonymous email thing, I get it. I do just from this side, from the public, hear that nobody's getting a response on anything. Whether or not they identify themselves, depending on the issue. I know that like some things, I know there are I understand specific answers can't be given, just like my advice nobody asked for. Even just a reply that says this was like received, or like, thank you for reaching out, right? Just, so I think people are saying they're just like radio silence, even if they're sending from their direct email. Some people are nervous they're still employed by the district, whatever it might be, that's why it's anonymous. It's not coming from, I don't think, a place of like trying to hide behind anyone. So that part I kind of did just want to throw out into the universe as something maybe we can work on communication-wise and transparency-wise, is like just making sure people are at least acknowledged, even if you cannot speak to the specifics of what is being said.
Melissa, I just want you to know I totally agree, because when I was running, and now that I'm on this side and we're not allowed to respond, and there's legal reasons, and I've asked this to be told to the public because they should understand, because I didn't understand either why no one gets responded. And I feel that we should explain the process so that everybody understands why we're not answering.
So there's a generic email that goes out, but I think that Ms. Turgos's comment goes beyond that. I think she's looking for like an actual response from a person.
Right.
Not an automated response.
Because like I sometimes I feel like I email those things and I get back like, thanks for your message, and I like never hear back from like Sirius XM, you know what I mean? Because like they're not, like that's what it feels like when you get back that automated thing, and some of these people are like pouring their hearts out in these emails, and they're getting upset. And I know, like I learned that I sent an email, and Lisa Hutchinson actually had to answer me and be like, they can't answer you, so like relax, calm down. But I didn't understand. I was like, how do you read this and ignore me 7 threads in? Like, is anybody home? So I think it is important for everyone to kind of know at least even to what you can and can't respond to, because people might change the subject matter of what they're sending if they know it's going to get a response if they do. So that was kind of, I did just want to throw that into the universe. And I'm just, as we were listening, it might be helpful. I don't know if we have this, but if we do, it's buried in the website. Like, it sounds like we need like a blog almost to like update and like share this type of information. Like, this is what a FOIL is, right? Like a whole little post, like the superintendent, like something, so that we don't have to have like, the 2-hour conversations where now everyone is confused again. So it might be something to consider, like we might get up that social media traffic too, you never know.
Thank you. Thank you for the donation. We will share it with our Director of Mental Health. If you want to just leave it there, we'll grab it at the end. Yep, thank you so much. Number 4.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. The scholar chip, there are 3 people that just all said you'd be willing to suspend it to have it checked out, okay? Not understanding why you aren't going into executive session.
It was never brought to us. We were never asked about it.
But y'all are talking about it. You can actually do that, you know? You have 3 people that are saying they want to do that. That's just a point in fact, okay? 3 people saying that it needs to be checked out. You could do that tonight. Having said that, my question is, has there been an issue with this where information has gotten out? Have you guys heard that?
We have not had an issue.
But you've heard where.
Connecticut has not had an issue. Other districts are looking into some of the issues or kinks that people are having. It's kinks that they're having with the system. But there are other people from other school districts that are concerned with how it's being used. Doesn't mean that Connecticut's using it that way. I'm just hearing it from other. It has the potential, as Mrs. Poppy stated, it has the capability to mine data and stuff. So it does have
So I'm not just checking. What you're saying is it's not just, that's what we're using it for, but you can utilize it for something nefarious, is what you're saying.
I just went on the site that a different group of, I meet up with a group of people to go over things across district. I've been doing this for the last 5 years. People that I made friends with, which I've told you, with like other board members that I've made friends with from other districts, and we share information. It's not anything that's, I don't know how to, like, it's not official. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not official. So that's what she had just explained, is we're using it more for getting in and out of lunch and in and out of the building.
Why? That's my question. We have a homeroom, right? And what's the point in having people come in?
So it's to know who is in the building, basically. They need to know who is in the building and where they should be. So just because they're supposed to be in room 218 doesn't mean they're in room 218, but they scanned in and they are in the building. So should we have an emergency, we know that student is in the building. They're just not in room 218. So now,
Attendance does that.
right, but now they're not in the classroom, so they're not taking attendance, but they're somewhere in the building. But now we know they are because of the scholarship. That's.
The thing is that's absurd.
No, I understand. It's not.
Every teacher takes attendance, okay? Every single teacher takes attendance. You have homeroom in the morning, right?
What I'm saying to you is the child is not in the classroom. The child is in the building somewhere. They didn't go to the class.
That kiosk is not going to find that kid for you.
But we know they're in the building, so now we're sending a first responder to look for the student when we wouldn't have, because the teacher's like, oh no, they didn't come to class today.
Marisol,
No, I understand. But that's actually how it was
have
explained to me.
attended-
It's how it was explained for how they wanted to use it.
Class, okay?
No, I
It's a
understand.
monetary
Okay.
thing that's absurd to me, okay? That potentially is dangerous.
I'm
okay?
just trying to
It's not
explain why. On how it was to be used. It's not an argument, I'm just explaining how it was presented for its use. It's to know where the child is, where the student is, who is in the building. And my argument, you don't have to punch out. So the student goes home, you don't know that they went home.
So let me recommend, I believe it was April or early May, that there was a presentation that was done on the scholarship. So maybe when Ms. Poppy comes back at the next board meeting, we don't have to redo the presentation, but maybe just go back to the history in terms of why this was recommended, why it was implemented, and are we utilizing it the way it was intended? I think giving that little bit of history, which not everyone, I know you can probably go back and replay it on YouTube or something, but I think it'll be helpful, that history from the spring, So I understand what you're
And
saying.
I think we need to know the costs too, because
thing is if it costs
the grant was
But that's what we were
that's
just,
22
right, the grant was
cents a month,
first, but now
because
it's,
an
you know,
absurd premise.
And I guess also, is the grant, is it a reoccurring grant that this is going to cover the not necessarily the replacement cards, but in terms of the annual implementation, is it some grants, some of the federal grants are very reliable to be, that they're gonna kind of be in place from year to year. Other grants, they go away in 2 or 3 years, and then if a district likes the item, they have to figure out through the general fund. So I guess just that component as well, in terms of, okay, we know that the grant covered the implementation, but for how long? That would be helpful.
I find having a kid kiosk into the bathroom every time they have to go offensive. Okay,
That's not scholarship though, that's just in terms of
Didn't you just say that we're putting a kiosk so the kids?
it's a similar,
It's not the
it's similar,
scholarship
it's
though.
not the same exact scholarship.
So we're counting how many times a kid goes to the bathroom? Someone's got to explain that one to me.
It's about knowing where they are and if there's for safety reasons, and it's also if there's an incident in the bathroom, graffiti, what have you.
You always
So-
find out what happens in the bathroom.
I understand.
Always.
It's a technical tool to help.
Okay, so with the hiring policy, has anyone done anything with BOCES? We've always had for instance, mechanics, drivers, things like that, custodial staff. We teach them and then, because we taught them via BOCES, we've then hired them. Are we doing anything with that?
I personally don't know the answer to that question.
I am not aware of anything that this district has done with that.
We've always in the past, just so you guys know, we have custodial staff, we've had, where kids have gone to BOCES to learn how to do these specific things, mechanics. We've actually hired them afterwards.
Our custodial staff is fully staffed when we don't have an issue with it.
I'm giving you an
Right.
example. We said mechanics, okay, bus drivers and things like that. We've also sent our kids to BOCES to learn how to build engines and things like that, not understanding why we aren't going via that route, going to BOCES.
We can certainly look into that.
I mean, if we're having such an issue doing it, I would think we would try to. That's just a thought process. Clearly. All right, I think that's it. I think that's it for the things you guys were talking about.
I just want to update
Thank you.
about the grant writer, because you did ask about it. And maybe you could give us some more information. We can't find one that you don't have to pay for. So,
Are you guys being serious?
no, I'm being serious. So, if we're here for our community.
You're making that point. Who told you you can't find a grant writer?
Okay, no one, it's not that someone told us, you know what? It's that they did their research and that's what they found out. We are a community and we work together, so I wanted to update you so that if we have other information, it's always welcomed.
So since you brought that up, okay, that to me is absolutely absurd. I don't.
And you know what? Oh no, I just wanted to apologize because the board, they get upset, but I, when I was out there, didn't like when I didn't get an update. So I wanted to update
So your
you.
update is, we don't have a grant writer, we don't know how to get a grant writer, and the people you went to see about getting a grant writer doesn't know how to get a grant writer where they.
Right, if it helps you, we went to BOCES for that, as you just suggested. But again, it wasn't that negative, and I was only updating you so you were aware, and that, again, the community could always help. It's not a bad thing, Sarah.
All right, so
I think Dr. Centimore can speak on this.
So, BOCES does have a service, but you have to be specific in knowing what it is that you're looking for, and then obviously there's a fee to that. In terms of an at-large grant writer, a district could always look at a consultant service and decide if it wants to, pay the person via consultant contract, which Gercio and Gercio would need to formulate. And come up with whether it was commission-based. So, if we want to try the BOCES route first, again, we have to kind of bring to them the specific area of focus, or as a district, we could advertise for a consultant service, and that would be,
I just want to know why it was so easy to post it. I appreciate that April posted on social media to get jobs. If people have, like, if that's all it's gonna take, then we should all go home tonight and post on social media. I'm serious, all board members should post, because maybe.
I think this is something different.
No, I understand what you're saying. Well, that's why I assumed that this was all getting done. I don't get, I'm told in one breath, don't post on social media as a board member. So I try not to post on social media as a board member, information about working here, whatever. Then but if you do that, we can bring in workers. Okay.
Just so you know,
And
there are specific.
I just don't understand what's going on in our
guidelines that
district.
For school districts, you could call a superintendent or a superintendent of business and ask what they're utilizing. And they don't get paid, okay? You don't have to house them. They don't have to have an office. You don't have to pay them, okay? They literally, and it's all about what you want to give them percentage-wise. It's not hard to do, okay? They have to know how to they have to be specific in knowing how to get money for schools and things that schools want and or need. All you have to do is call other school districts. And you don't. You guys do. That's where it is. So, just saying.
Thank you. Number 5.
Good evening. Dr. Centimore, it's been wonderful seeing you at events around campus. I think the kids appreciate it. I know I do as a parent. I have a question and a comment. My question is, the internet in school is kind of non-existent, we'll say. I know at times my daughter will get a remind that tennis practice is canceled or changed or whatever, and she doesn't get it until it's too late to know that it was canceled or changed, because the internet is not as effective as it should be. So is that a building issue? Is that an issue with the
So we
internet?
did do a lot of work, and our IT department worked tirelessly this summer on classroom connectivity. So is this a classroom issue, or is it beyond the classroom, hallways outside of the building? And I'm going to pass the baton to Ms. Potter.
This is for sure a building issue. I know there is almost no reception in those buildings.
Even outside, I mean, at matches or games or whatever, there's really poor internet. So I think you're talking about how important, internet is. The kids are supposed to be able to access it for projects or whatnot, and they're not able to. So I think that's something that needs to be looked into and rectified, especially since we are moving forward in such, a technology-filled component with education.
We may be talking about two different things. So if you're talking about connectivity with your personal device, there are perhaps some delays dependent upon the device itself and the access permissions that you have as a student or as a guest on our network.
But a lot of times students are told not to use their personal device because they're looking up something that would be blocked if they were using a school-issued device. So I think having the personal ability as well as using the school platform is equally as important. But even sending a remind message to a student, which is not going through a school device, but maybe a personal device, that's also the communication that needs to be able to be had within the student before the day is over.
Some of those permissions may be slower because of that level of access that's granted through those specific permissions. So I think I understand what you're saying and what your concern is here, and it's something we can certainly look at. But as far as the why behind it, that's likely what is kind of holding up the swiftness of that transmission.
Okay, fair. My other question is really just for my own knowledge. I know that there's been a lot of conversation with the state about continuing education for our students that are not mainstreamed, but it might be getting education past 12th grade, call it. And now that the state is looking upon that a little bit more significantly, can you just clarify, is that additional education funded by the taxpayers, or is that money that's given from the state to continue their education post 18 years of age?
So I'm going to follow up, but I think Ms. Hutchinson, what she's referring to is a recent decision about students with disabilities and the ruling about age 21 to 22. So again, if you can just speak to that ruling, and then I could quickly speak to the financial piece.
Thank you. You guys are really testing my legal knowledge today. So there was a recent determination by the Commissioner of Education that a case from Connecticut, which is within the Second Circuit, and that's the jurisdiction that includes New York, applies in New York. Essentially, it said that, so there's always education for students with disabilities up until the age of 21 or until they graduate. So some students with disabilities may take until 21 to graduate or never really get a high school diploma, but learn skills in order to function in the real world. So in that case, the court said the student was eligible for education up until the day before they turned 22.
Okay.
So it used to be the date, well, we've always interpreted it as, that language as the year in which the student turns 21. So let's say they turn 21 in May and the school year ends in June. Of course, you're going to educate them until June. They turn 21 in September, you're educating them until June. Now, the state is saying, I don't know if it's going to get challenged yet, but right now the state is advising school districts that it looks as if the law is you are educating them until the day they turn 22. So that's always funded federally through the state and through taxes. I mean, I think I'm saying that correctly. It's a you know, there is federal funding associated with educating students with disabilities. There's also state funding associated. Well, the funding comes through the state, and there's local tax dollars.
I guess my question is, since you're going past 21 until their last day of 21, is that additional time?
It depends on it depends on the child, right? It depends on their needs. It's typically a small population of students that do require that, but in Connecticut, I would leave that up to the curriculum person to be able to tell you the percentage of students that need it, but it's not a very large percentage.
But there's no extra funding from the state because
no,
they're following that until the last day of their 21st year?
It would be
possibly?
the typical funding sources that you would get for students with disabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6?
Okay, so I have a question. 9/11 happened, and before that, we had a whole bunch of different school trips with both middle schools, junior highs at the time. They went to Frost Valley. They would go to Frost Valley. They went to Mystic, Connecticut. They would go to New York. They would go to Washington, D.C. Nothing. Okay, 9/11 happened, and then there was always thereafter, I want to say for 5 or 6 years, it's orange, it's red, it's whatever those charts were as far as danger alert. I think they were like one was orange or whatever. The trips vanished. I'm hearing stories of certain teachers taking them on their day off. I want to know what happened to the school trips. We are by far one of the schools on Long Island that has next to no trips. Other schools are doing this. What happened to Frost Valley? 9/11 happened decades ago. But literally since 9/11, there were no school trips. Both of my girls went through elementary school, not one trip. Now I know maybe New York City right now, iffy, you don't want to do it, I get it. But this is years and nothing.
So I could be
No trips
wrong.
to the city?
And Ms. Poppy, correct me if I'm right, but I do believe trips are making a comeback. I know that some of the elementary schools have done trips last year. The middle schools have done trips. There was an 8th grade trip in both middle schools. The high school has started doing some field excursions.
I'm not talking about getting back before the end of the school day. Those aren't the trips I'm talking about.
You're talking about overnights.
Overnights?
Because there still is a senior trip.
Mystic, Connecticut, where you took the ferry over. Non-dangerous things.
I think there's also a misconception that people don't understand. To go on these trips, we also have to get chaperones. And just last year, we had a hard time getting chaperones for freshman awareness, which is a beautiful event that we went to. And that's only overnight at the high school. That's literally hanging out at the high school
that's
overnight. I'll be there this year if you want to come. We got to get some chaperones. But I'm being serious.
That's different. What you can do is, and I think we all know this, plan a trip, send it, and say, listen, they can't go unless we have chaperones, okay? But I happen to know for a fact they didn't want parental chaperones. They wanted teachers chaperoning, okay? So the fact that if we can't get chaperones because we have an issue with the teachers doing it, that's a problem, okay? Now, I'm not saying I don't know. I'm asking. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a genuine question. Is it that the teachers don't want to do it? Because from what I heard from a decade ago, okay, this was where they all stopped after 9/11, okay, that it wasn't the teachers, okay, that the school district, the boards, and not you guys, I'm just saying the boards as well as administration no longer wanted trips because they didn't want to take that kind of risk or whatever. But the fact of the matter is our kids are losing out.
Misunderstand too, it doesn't have to be teachers. It could be, last year
I'm
we
not
tried.
misunderstanding, I know that.
No, okay, because so we could get chaperones. Anyone who's a district employee can chaperone. They even take volunteers. That's why I said we volunteered last year. Marisol and I were there overnight, well, almost all night, both of us.
But no trips are being planned. That's my point.
No, trips are starting to be planned again. That's what I'm trying to say.
So can someone address Frost Valley for the middle school kids?
I cannot.
Someone's got to address it.
Amazing trip.
Mrs.
Amazing
Poppy.
trip.
Sorry, we'll just ask, Mrs. Poppy, is there any, I don't recall us approving overnight trips except for, and I could be wrong, for a couple of sports, like we had like cheer go away, we had, I
Yeah,
remember.
but those are for
No, I
competition,
understand,
state
but
competition.
We also
I don't
had music.
recall any.
My
Music,
concern is that no one's thinking
No,
about it
music
because
went
it was
away
vetoed
overnight.
for 2 decades. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, who's going to bring up a trip when it's been systematically vetoed for 2 decades? And I'm not joking about it.
I've been on the board, this is my 5th year, and I can honestly tell you, I've never vetoed a trip. I've actually advocated when it was for the Orlando trip, because I was very advocate. And like I said, as far as I know, when I got on, COVID stopped a lot of the trips, stopped a lot of everything. And then they brought back, like I said, I went on a couple of trips just for myself to follow my children going on them. And that was if you're in like band, if you're in orchestra, if you're in like a sporting event, a lot of those have overnights. But I know what you're talking about, the
There's
fifth.
also new teachers that have come in and no one they don't know about this. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
So
I don't know what's
I'm
going
the
on.
person who approves the field trips that are put forth within the district. And I can say that I could probably sign off on field trips daily. That's how many we offer. If you're talking about a specific experience, I heard you mention.
Please explain what you just said. How many you offer? Because I have 2 kids now in this district. And I haven't gotten one thing back about any school trip.
Are you discussing specifically this Frost Valley experience,
That
or
was an
I'm
example.
trying to understand?
But I've just given you several. Mystic, Connecticut, which by the way, was I think 7th grade, okay? There was Frost Valley. There was Washington DC. There was several, okay? There was the Whaling Museum. There's nothing, okay? I mean nothing.
I wouldn't say nothing. It's just they're different experiences now.
Wait a minute. In one context, I'm being told that several school trips are being signed off on, and I have 2 kids, one in high school, one in middle school. One just got out of the elementary school, and nothing has been offered. Now, I'm trying to make up reasoning. I know there are new teachers. They don't know what's out there. They don't know what's available. But it makes no sense to me, okay? In one hand, you're saying you're signing off daily. Well, I have 2 girls, okay? A different age range. And nothing has been sent home and offered. My one girl went through the middle school doing nothing, okay? Nothing. My other one just went through, and I'm not talking about COVID, okay? But my other one went on one school trip with one teacher, okay? And she's the one she's an older teacher, consistently took her classes, okay? But none are coming home. So honestly, I don't know what you're signing off on, but our kids aren't getting them.
I know that Cherokee, and I'm going back a few years ago, we did go on like a trip to medieval times. I mean, going back like 5 years ago. So I don't know if they're doing that anymore. I'm again, I aged out of that, but I haven't seen it because of COVID. But I guess that's something to ask. Are schools going out of state? Marisol just said no.
My oldest went to medieval times. We are not going out of state anymore, as far as I know. My daughter.
Why?
New
York City, I understand.
We can look into it and definitely get back to you. I know children are starting to go on field trips. I've seen the pictures on social media. I know for a fact that they're going on field trips.
These are important milestones.
I understand. My daughter went through middle school, now went field trip. She's in the high school now. I get it, but they are starting to come back. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I'll wait to see it, because honestly, nothing. Okay, so I want to know.
Thank you.
All of these kids in the high school, they walk into a classroom and they have to hand in their cell phones. Who came up with that? Why?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, the
Every
teachers are
class.
doing it again this year. They did it
What
years
is
ago
that?
too.
Who made the rule? Why? That's the genuine question.
I'm going to say that, just so you know, because I have a large span of, the kids, where the older kids had a, we're not allowed to use the phones in every single classroom. I do comprehend that technology has changed, and this year that they are now again becoming stricter, and my daughter also hands her phone in certain classes. As a parent, I'm okay with that, just because, you're there for education, but I know, but other parents aren't. I just am saying that I understand that the no phone use in the classroom.
Well, clearly, but don't use your phone.
I know the
They're
middle
in trouble.
the middle schools don't, like, I know for the one middle school, you're not allowed to use your cell phone. But I was told recently that if there was an emergency, you could call the office, they could bring the kid down, and the child could call you either from the office or use their cell phone at that point in front of administration. But the reality is, and I'm fine with that, I am not fine with, if you're saying to me that we're actually taking, and these are, taking people's
Well, they just
phones, I have a
bin in
problem
the
with
front.
that.
They don't
If
actually take them. There's a bin in the front. You
That's
put them in the
collecting
bin as you.
phones,
Right, but I'm saying the teacher
Yeah, I have a
isn't
problem
just
with that.
taking them.
I think that with these kids are old enough now, you could say to them, put them in your backpack, and if I see them, I'm gonna take it. Like, I understand that whole concept, and then you could, discipline, but to put them, I'm personally not for putting everyone's phones in case of an emergency, if something happens, everyone's running out of that class, you're gonna get that one kid who's like, I don't have money, I'm not gonna leave my phone, I can't, and God forbid that kid gets stuck in a classroom. There's gotta be something with that. I had a hard time with bathrooms being locked as a fire hazard, and it is. And people don't want to hear it, that I fought for that. I have a real problem with bathrooms being locked. In Parkland years ago, kids didn't make it because doors were locked. Bathrooms should not be locked. I don't believe in that. And I also don't believe in cell phones being taken. In the event of emergency, you're going to get that one kid who's like, my cell phone is my life. My parents can't afford to get me another, God forbid, or the kid can't afford it. And that kid's going to be digging through a pile of phones in a fire.
It's
No.
even more
No,
than
no,
that.
no, no, no.
It's even more than that. You used to have pay phones, okay? We no longer have pay phones. You used to have pay phones. If a kid is being bullied or whatever, or the kid needs to contact their parent for whatever reason, okay? We always had the ability to go down, stick a quarter in, or call collect and speak with mom or dad. Not in front of administration, not in front of clerical, doing it privately, okay? I just don't understand the concept of, and now, by the way, if my kid is using the phone inappropriately, then they're going to get in trouble. But they should not be taken away. And there are instances that aren't, fire and or something else, that a kid may need a phone. Simply to make a phone call privately without having to go to an administrator to do it. Okay? It makes no sense to me.
Thank you.
And one more thing.
No, I'm sorry. We have to move on to the next person. Number 7.
because she brought up, I'm going to bring up field trips. Something that I appreciate the sentiment on the field trips, but here's a couple things. One, my 10, 11, 12-year-old is not going on overnight field trips. It's just not happening. Sorry, that's my choice, whatever. Also, field trips cost money. You're right, it is my choice. Field trips cost money. The kids in the high school are struggling to pay for these big overnight trips. We've discussed this ad nauseum up here, and we've tried to figure out ways. We have to stop putting this pressure on now middle school overnight. So yes, field trips are great, day trips are great, less cost for them. We have to figure out better ways to help families to be able to afford them, because I've been very fortunate. My kids got on a ton of trips through school. They've flown on private planes, for goodness sake. I mean, I should be so lucky. That's the God's honest truth. I mean, it's wonderful. I'm so grateful that I'm able to provide that experience for them. If they couldn't, then so be it. I also had a kid who didn't have a traditional high school graduation because it was COVID, but you adjust and life is what it is and you just happy with how it goes. The other thing, grant committees. I can't believe we don't have a grant committee. I swear to you, when some of my kids were little, there were teachers that were leaving the classroom constantly to do grant writing. I don't understand where did those people go? Because there were times they had the most wonderful elementary teachers. April, you were there. And they would just leave the classroom. I'm like, why is the teacher not here today? They're on a grant writing committee. So I don't know where all these people went. I'm sure that they were paid a stipend for it as they deserved it because that is extra work. But we did have grant writing committees. I don't know where the heck they went. The other thing, why people don't send emails to the board. I'm going to tell you why, because there are confidentiality issues in this entire district. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just the board. I'm not blaming any of you specifically. I'm just saying in general, because there have been many times that I have, scrolling on social media and people from inside school buildings all of a sudden are posting private information on social media. And I say, or some random person in the neighborhood, I go, wow, how did you find that out? That seems like private information. Oh, my friend works in the school. Wow, I can't even believe you just blew up your friend's spot like that. That's so messed up. And why are you sharing personal information? So I'm going to tell you right now, if I had an issue with something, there is no way on God's green earth that I would send an email that could become public record or that anybody could discuss it, because quite honestly, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And there are plenty of people, and I've actually specifically asked people, and I'm like, why would you write that if your friend told you that? They're like, oh, everybody knows, everybody talks, that's great until it's your kid they're talking about or your family they're talking about. That's not okay. That's so messed up. I'm not the only person that says it. I'm going to take a lot of heat for it, I'm sure. But those are the facts. People will not write the emails. They will write it anonymously or they won't write it at all. And they'll just suffer through and be miserable during these years because not everyone's having the great experience like you're having with all those teachers that come to all the events. I'm happy that that's your experience. That is not everybody's experience. No, and I'm not.
I agree with you.
No, and I'm not picking
No,
on
just
you.
let her finish, please.
You know that.
I definitely.
Please, April, let her finish.
No, I know she does, and I just want
Can we
to know
please
I'm not picking on you.
let her finish?
I'm just saying that I agree. Like you are having that wonderful experience. Everybody is not having that wonderful experience. So nobody is going to write an email when they know that their personal issues are going to become public fodder, especially when it's their children involved, because nobody wants their children's private business out in the public. Nobody would want that. You want to protect your children. I don't care if someone hates me or whatever. It's irrelevant. They can hate me all they want. And I could dislike, I would never go for somebody's kids, but people do. And it's inappropriate, and quite honestly, it's disgusting. That's just
I agree.
gross.
Thank you.
That's an issue.
I just want to tell you, Jenny, I agree with you on everything you said, 110%. I know it firsthand because I followed the email. I followed the proper protocol last year when I had an issue, as you already know, and it landed me in the newspaper because somehow an email I sent to a teacher that then was sent to an administrator, then was sent who knows where, and landed.
It's just inappropriate.
No, it happens,
It's just
and there are leaks.
inappropriate, and quite
Unfortunately,
honestly,
there are
there's
leaks.
ramifications for that.
There
But
are.
no one will pursue it because they don't want to take the heat from the community. It's just not okay. You could hate everybody you want. You could dislike everyone you want. You could hate every politic, every personal opinion they have, but you still have to be a decent human being, and that is what is missing. That annoys me. I'm sorry. And then also, Melissa, those are awesome that you brought those. Another thing, quick, OLA or OLA, they partnered with, I want to say Bridgehampton School District. They have a crisis hotline also. You probably know about them. Minerva Perez, she started it. The important thing about them is that they have a 24-hour crisis hotline, and it's bilingual as well, which I know we have a larger population, more and more. Something to look into. I have called them back at Wiki playing phone tag, but I would love to see how those school districts are working with that. They've probably partnered with them maybe a year or two ago. So if maybe that's something that you might be able to reach out to them, Dr. Centimore, and see maybe, but I know Bridgehampton was one of the school districts. So they're mostly on the East End because they have a higher ENL population. But it would be nice to have a crisis hotline also that readily available has multilingual speakers because that's
Thank you. Thank you so much. Number 8.
Hi. I'm going to tell you that I have gone to 10 in a row around Concord Middle School Veterans Day ceremonies. And the greatest part of that is that I have every year had at least one grandchild there. So if there's any way to honor 9/11, I'm there ready to sling eggs, okay? Because the ceremonies we do for the people who, as the time rolls, they tend to be forgotten. And Saturday, I spent the morning at a Veterans Appreciation Breakfast given by Senator Alexis Wyke. And they served over 100 veterans, and there were probably more than half of them were Vietnam veterans who received their commemorative pin. But there were actually 3 Korean War veterans there who were in their 90s. So it's a pretty cool thing. And the more you can do, to kind of let everyone know about the history that we keep losing, the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 9.
Hi, everybody. On a positive note, school for me has been significantly improved because of BOCES that everyone's talking about. So I was wondering if we could advertise it more, only because BOCES is very broad when you just hear that word. It creates more opportunity because a lot of kids that I deal with don't plan on going to college, whether it's in aviation, HVAC, so it just should be promoted. And it changes a lot of people's education and how they realize how they learn best. And sports and clubs for me have been good. I mean, since I got up and running, I've met a lot of new people, so I think that also is something that is being put more effort into. There's a new ping pong club. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. That's amazing. And I think the 9/11 idea, like you said, is an amazing idea because we are the lost generation of what has happened. So I think this year is off to a good start. So I just wanted to say that. So have a good night and go to bed early.
Thank you. I appreciate the positive feedback. I just wanted to let you know that we have discussed promoting BOCES more. We discussed it at the last board meeting too at career night, we will call it. We will not call it college night. We will have BOCES representation because there are a lot of students that utilize our BOCES programs. So we are looking to push it and promote it.
Is it going to be different, like, types of representations for BOCES? Because I know I do the animal science one, and then there's some other people who do aviation.
They will have all their course offerings available. Thank you so much. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good night.